Good morning, beautiful ladies, and welcome back to another Respect Dare from the Respect Dare 40 Days to a Deeper Connection with God and your husband. Today we are on Dare 22. It's called 18 Shirts. She starts with Colossians 3:23-24. Whatever you do, do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Christ whom you serve. And she starts by saying, people will frequently disappoint us because they are imperfect humans. So are we. When we forget about the human nature of those around us, we are setting them up to let us down. I think this is so important for us to remember. We know that, right? But when we put expectations on people that really should be on God, or that removes any room for mistakes, I think we go into a little bit of self-righteousness, and that's something we need to be careful about, right? So anyways, the story for this devotional today is of this couple. The woman went back to work. She's working part-time. She has a baby. She has a little toddler, and she has a kindergarten. She also has the house. She also has the part-time work, and she has all the things, right? She's a woman. Hello. So anyways, Michael, I think it's her husband's name, he asked her, I'm running out of shirts and I haven't seen this white shirt for a while. Do you think you can iron a shirt for me today? It doesn't seem that he said it in a bad tone or anything like that. But there were 18 shirts in the laundry. So imagine, you need to have a lot of shirts to not run out when 18 of them are in the laundry room, right? So she didn't respond, but she went and dropped off her kid in kindergarten. The baby was napping, and the other one is playing. And she goes to the laundry room, picks up the shirts. She brings the board to the kitchen where she can see the kids, and she begins to iron them, right? She counted, there were 18 of them. So as she begins to iron them, she begins to remember the times that her husband wore those shirts, the times that she bought it for him, and she begins to have like a good time, ironing the shirts, not necessarily from the task that she's doing, but from the encounter that she's having with the Lord, right? God began to encounter her in those moments where she was ironing, and she began this task in resentment, because of all the things she needed to do, and she ended in gratitude because God showed her how great her husband is and how hard he works to provide for the family, to give them a good life, and so it's a beautiful story of how it began in one way and it finished another way. And I think she says it took like 16 minutes or something like that, so it wasn't even that long, right? But I think that sometimes we put off things that we could just get it done, because of that resentment of having to do things, because this is her thing. Like, she felt that she was stuck in having to do those shirts because he didn't like the way that the dry cleaner does, right? So I think that when we feel that it's a duty that we have to do is when we begin to get resentful, right? But when we understand that these are just things we get to do because we are married to great men, and because we have a beautiful family, and because God is good and he's giving the ability for us to do, right? We have the health, we have everything we need. It turns from resentment to gratitude, right? And I would love to say that I've never felt resentful of anything, but that's not the case, right? So what about you? She has 4 questions there for us to reflect and answer. And I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. So in right when my husband and I moved in together and began our lives together as a married couple, we had small kids. Right when we got together, my daughters were 5 and 3. His daughter was 10. So we had 3 small girls, actually. And I was working full time, more than full time. I was working like 50-60 hours a week. It was a lot of work. My work was far, so I caught traffic every day, and although I had a lot of help in the house, I had somebody to clean for me, I had somebody that was cooking meals for the girls, and picking them up from school and things like that. So I had a lot of help. However, I still felt the responsibility of taking care of my house and the things around the house, right? I never had a shirt issue because my husband does enjoy the dry cleaner, thank you, Jesus, and so do I. So, all his work shirts go to dry cleaning, but at the time, he was traveling 3 weeks out of the month, and he was home on the weekends. He would be gone from Monday to Friday, and then he'll be home on the weekends. And then 1 week out of the month, he was home, and it made it a little easier for me, to be honest, because when he was gone, I could just focus on the things that I had at hand. And then when he was home, there were times that I resented him, because I remember there's a specific scenario that I think it had been like 2 of the trips, like 2 weeks in a row, that he had gone, and I hadn't had a chance to do his laundry, right? We used to do the kids' laundry separately, and uniforms and all of that, and I hadn't had a chance to do our laundry, like mine and his. And he was running out of underwear. He just didn't have any more, right? Because it had been 2 weeks. And when he comes and tells me, instead of having this quiet attitude and gun and doing it, I resent it. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, do it yourself then, or something like that. I don't even remember what it is that I said. I don't know that I said that. I've always done the laundry. But my point is that I ended up going to the store and buying him another 20 underwear. So I don't even remember, because I didn't want to have to deal with him telling me he had no underwear, but the truth is that it's not really that I resented. Well, I did resent him, but it wasn't about the fact that he had no more underwears. It was about the fact that it made me feel guilty for not being able to fulfill with what I thought were my responsibility, and that was the case for me. I believe that and I think I've said this here before, I believe that when something triggers us, and pokes something in us that make us feel a certain way, it's more about us than anything else, and in this scenario, it was about the fact that I thought I was responsible for all of those underwears, right? And I mean, yeah, sure, I'm his wife and I took the responsibility upon myself, and that's fine. That's not the point. The point is that when I didn't get things done, it made me feel very guilty, So from that point, I began to go into a journey with God that how do I not feel guilty? How do I let go of this guilt that I feel when things don't appear to be the way that I would like for them to be, because I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it happens often that things don't necessarily turn out the way that I would like for them, So anyways, I began to go on this journey with God, and I've learned to let go of that guilt and that and that shame that I carried every time things didn't go how I would have liked for them to go, and I began to to recognize that everything didn't have to be so perfect all the time. Like my house didn't have to be in a certain way, you know what I mean, for me to feel comfortable or whatever, you know. And I began to let go of certain things, and by no means, you know, like, do I have a mess going on all the time? On the contrary, but I began to realize what was priority. You know, his priority, the girls are priority, my time with them were priority, you know. Not the underwears. I can just go and buy more, you know, and we'll solve the problem. Does that make sense? So I think that it's important for us to identify, you know, why is it that we're feeling the way that we're feeling when those things are brought up? Because most likely it's just something in our hearts that we need healing, you know. And when we open up to God, to come in and do that, he really does, you know, and it's beautiful. So, well, that was the thing I wanted to share with you guys today. And yeah, and I do encourage you to spend some time asking God how you can appreciate your husband more, you know, because I don't know that we do that enough, you know. And I know that a lot of these dares are about appreciating our husbands and writing to them and things like that. We don't need to do that, you know, for this. That's not what I'm suggesting. But just spend some time while you're doing the things that you are resenting, thinking about how you can appreciate him more, you know. And I really believe that brings us from resentment to gratitude, like it did for this woman in this devotional. All right, guys, so I'll leave you here today. I love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.